Wave 2 of the Mario Kart Booster Course Pass is finally here, and it's miles better than the first one. The tracks are way more interesting, and the addition of a brand new course has really brought about a lot of excitement. So like any normal teenage Nintendo YouTuber, I'll be ranking the worst and the best tracks from Wave 2. I'll mainly be focusing on how these tracks compare to their originals, as well as any other major changes. And as always, make sure to hit that subscribe button. No reason, just do it. Now then, on with the show! Coming in at last place, we have SNES Mario Circuit Free. It shouldn't be a surprise to see this track so low on the list, especially considering that it's nearly 30 years old. I usually try to give each track the benefit of the doubt and not take its age into consideration, but man, there is just nothing here. The layout is the same as it was back in Super Mario Kart almost 3 decades ago. They could have changed it up at least a tiny bit, but no, and the graphics are just subpar at best. I mean, it looks fine, but compared to other tracks in this wave, it's clear that this track got the least amount of time put into it. I really wish that Nintendo had put more love into this track, or better yet, thrown the RMX versions from Tour. That would have made this track way more exciting. But in the end, this one's just okay. Not too bad, but not too great either. Also, I love how Nintendo put cones in front of these oil spills. Way to add immersion to one of the most lifeless and soul-draining Mario Kart tracks of all time, guys. Next up is GBA Snow Land. This was one that I was originally excited by, but a bit saddened by when I tried it for myself. I think I was expecting something more akin to the Sky Garden remake from Wave 1, and was a bit disappointed when it wasn't up to snuff. I still think this track is really great, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it could have been a lot better. For example, the course doesn't have too many interesting elements that make it stand out. I mean, you've got your penguins and your occasional ramp, but there's nothing too over the top. I would have preferred it if the elevation was a bit more intense. I think that would have made it a lot more fun to navigate. The ice physics from Super Circuit are also here, and I really like how it's implemented. It's more noticeable than on other ice tracks, but I definitely appreciate the added difficulty. The remix music is also 10 out of 10, just saying. I really do like what Nintendo's done with this track, but I just wish that they had done just a little bit more to spice up this old favorite. If you had told me back in 2019 that Tour's New York Minute would one day end up in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I probably would have looked at you funny. But 3 years later, that fantasy is somehow turned into some sort of twisted reality. But it's not all bad, since this track feels right at home with some of Mario Kart 8's own offerings. The city aesthetic is really cool and feels just like New York City, with its skyscrapers and bright lights. You'll also find cars parked in the streets, overflowing sewers, and Goombas taking a midnight stroll through the park. I know Mario characters aren't real, but I've seen some real Goombas on the streets where I'm from, so this is pretty accurate. The track also splits up at some parts, allowing you to go different ways. The alternate paths don't feel all too different, but it's still a nice touch. And on the third lap, you get to go through this building and then a parking garage. It's just so cool. And I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to see Donkey Kong the musical? Is that like Shrek the musical? Will Seth Rogen be playing Donkey Kong? Why does this billboard create more questions than answers? Come on, Nintendo, make this a reality. N64 Kalimari Desert is the desert level of all time. That's it, that's the review. Okay, but seriously, I've never been that big a fan of Kalimari Desert, but this version is probably my favorite one yet. You see, it starts off normal, but when you get to the second lap, everything changes. You'll jump off this ramp onto the train tracks and go through the tunnel. You even have to dodge the train when it comes around, which is just a great touch. Apparently this is how the track was in Mario Kart Tour, so it's cool that this new version has forever been preserved. Even all the shortcuts from the Mario Kart 7 version return, making this the definitive Kalimari Desert experience. If you're a fan of this track, don't pass this one up because this one is definitely worth your money. Tour Sydney Sprint was one I was really looking forward to. I hadn't even played this one before, but just by looking at the footage in the trailer, it was clear that this track was going to be a good one. This course is all over the place. It's constantly taking through iconic parts of Sydney, and it makes for quite an excellent track. My favorite part is when you're on the bridge and there's all these ramps with dash panels and you get to go super fast, and the music is just amazing. It doesn't sound like anything you hear from Australia, but I mean, who cares? I really like how you drive backwards through some parts of the course too. It really makes this track stand out. The only issue with this one is the graphics, but that's a small price to pay for this awesome time. This course really has me excited for future tour tracks, seeing how creative and unique this one is. Mario Kart Wii is one of my favorite games of all time, so it's no surprise that Mushroom George is one of my favorites. This remake isn't as good as the original, but it's still a really fun one to race on. The biggest change has to be the cavern with all the mushrooms. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like the layout is completely changed. The mushrooms appear bigger, and there seem to be fewer of them as well. Like I said, that may or may not be true, but it's definitely throwing me off a bit. But that's okay, since the rest of this track is basically the same as the original. And that's completely fine because in my opinion, this is one of those tracks that doesn't need too many improvements. The original is so great that I don't mind seeing not as many changes, and this remake did just that. But before we move on, let's pay our respects to the missing shroom. I'm gonna miss you, buddy. And just like that, we're at number 2 with Sky High Sundae. When I first learned that this wave was going to contain a brand new track, you bet I was thrilled. I mean, this is exciting stuff. This was the first original track in a mainline Mario Kart game since like 2015, so you bet I skipped my uncle's funeral for this. And the fact that this track was going to be exclusive to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and only Mario Kart 8 Deluxe made it that more special. And then it was brought to Mario Kart Tour like a week later. Now that was a sad day. At least the track itself is amazing. I've been begging for a food-themed Mario Kart track for years now, and while we've kinda gotten that in the past, it wasn't necessarily to the extent I wanted it to be. Sky High Sundae, on the other hand, is exactly what I wanted and then some. I mean, you start the race in a freaking freezer, talk about making an entrance, and then you're gliding past ice cream and driving on s'mores and tricking off ice cubes. Every step of the way is filled with something new and I absolutely love it. You do spend a lot of time in the air with the amount of tricks you're doing, and I think it's a nice change of pace. I've been seeing a lot of people online complain that the overabundance of tricking ruins the course for them, but I think it helps spice up the gameplay in a new and refreshing way. If I ever go back and make another top 10 on the best Mario Kart 8 Deluxe tracks, this one would definitely be on it. But for now, we have to move on to number 1.
Wahaha! What did you expect?
Oh yeah, baby. At number 1 we have DS Waluigi Pinball. The DS version of this track is my favorite Mario Kart track of all time, so this one had a lot to live up to, and I think it did an excellent job of replicating the original, albeit with a few small issues. The main gripe I have with this version is the lack of some sound effects. The original Waluigi Pinball was famous for having custom sound effects, and while a few of them are here, some of them aren't, which kinda stinks. I also prefer the graphics of the original one as well. There's definitely a lot more color and detail in the remake, but there's just something about the original color palette that this version didn't quite replicate. Okay, enough complaining. So in case you couldn't tell, this track is quite good, as all Waluigi tracks should be. The layout is just as zany and fun as the original because they're exactly the same. That's right, they didn't pull another Warrior Stadium on us and change half the track. No, this is the real deal. And all the colors and lights around you really emphasize the idea that you're in a pinball machine. And with the pinballs going down the track with you and everything else going on, it's just so magical. Like seriously, this is a god tier track, no questions asked. Even the music is really amazing, if not more so than the original. Everything about this track adds up to an incredible experience that's unlike anything Mario Kart's ever seen before. I'm really glad that the second wave of the booster course finally came out. I know that we were all waiting a long time for this, and I'd say that the wait was definitely worth it. So, as usual, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, whatever, and thank you all again for watching, and I'll see you all again next time. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.